Hi, everybody. It's Will NY4, and I am here today introducing a new mod which I have created called Will's Enhanced Survey Tool. When you use this tool, it is going to save you hours of frustration as you try and locate the resources on the planets that you're visiting in order to set up your production network or whatever. To demonstrate how the mod works, I've set up a little scenario here. You're a beginner, you want to build adaptive frames, you realize that you need iron and aluminum, and then you want to be able to move them around, so you want helium. And your old standby planets Andraphon and Linnaeus 4b have been changed by Bethesda, so you can't go there anymore. They don't have those minerals in the new versions of the game. But Alpha Andraste 2 does have them. And you can see here that, we have aluminum, and over here is our iron. So we need to find a spot that's somewhere between here and there to put down our beacon. So let's choose a spot and go down and see what happens. This ship, and I put down the beacon, and I'm not making much progress here, and I'm sure you guys have been in the same situation. You can spend many minutes and sometimes hours if you're obsessive enough to try and find that location. Remember, we want aluminum, iron, and helium at the minimum. Okay, well, enough of the drama. I'm going to install my mod, and I do that with a simple console command. Bat West on. Okay, God mode's enabled. You probably saw that. But here's the beauty of this mod. I turn on my scanner, and now I just hit my jump key and jump. And look at what we see. All of the resources light up, just ready to be plucked, so to speak. Well, I went ahead and picked the site, and here's why it's such a great site. I have aluminum and helium. Those are required. Here's bonus number 1, beryllium. And super bonus number 2, tantalum. And then finally up here on the mountain, just a corner, but enough, iron. So this is how it works. And I have spent as much time floating up here and enjoying the views and still trying to find the ideal spot, but it's certainly more pleasurable than running through the weeds. The only downside is that if you get too addicted and fly too high and too fast, you're going to overwhelm your game and crash it. But we'll talk about that later. Let's go down to the helium, and I want to go in daylight because I want to show you one of the features or alternatives in turning the mod off. But we're back in the daylight, and I'll show you this little feature. When the mod is on, it does several things. We'll go into detail about this later, but it extends the range and extends the speed at which you travel, obviously. It also expands the perimeter of what you can actually see in your scanner. Now, here the mod is in place for helium, and you can see that the entire screen is helium. Now I'm going to turn off the mod using the first alternative method. That's called Bat West Off 1. So let me get out of the scanner, turn it off, turn it back on again. And now you see what the plain vanilla scanning spotlight looks. It doesn't see very much. So for those of you who agree with me that this is really not adequate, I've included a second alternative way to turn off the mod called Bat West Off 2. And here's what that does. All right, I've installed Bat West Off 2, and you could see the difference. Here is now, it's not a full screen, but it's not the spotlight. So these are the three console commands that make this thing work. There's west on, west off 1, and west off 2. Let's go into and look at detail in the files and how you actually install it. Well, here's what the file page will look like for the mod. There are three text files that are in this zipped up file, which is the major file that you should download. After you download it, unzip it into some folder, someplace where you can find it, because ultimately you have to take it into your program, into your main Starfield folder. Now, for me, you see, I'm on Steam, and this is the way that mine is kind of set up. And you want the folder that has that Starfield EXE in it. That's your main folder. So you copy or cut and paste it into that folder, and it should look like this with all three files kind of down at the end of your directory. West on text, west off 1 text, west off 2 text. All three of those files need to be in your Starfield directory. Well, here are the contents of each of these files so you know exactly what is happening and why it's happening. To turn on the mod, of course, bat west on in the console. The first thing it does is it clears the weather so you don't get struck by lightning when you're flying around. Then it changes the behavior of the jump button on your console or keyboard so that you hold it down instead of having to keep tapping it. Then there are three files that have to do with the scanning, radius, and so on. Then your speed is increased to 500 and the base range to 5,000. I mean, these are kind of made up numbers. You don't really get that speed or that range. And then finally, and most importantly, you're in God mode. So when you fall out of the sky from those heights, you'll break a leg, but you won't die. You won't die. So when you're finished and when you want to exit the mod, I gave you a couple of choices. Bat West Off 1 does the following. It eliminates that hold the button down for your boost pack. It changes the scanning ratios back to what would be vanilla. It reduces your speed back to 100, which is vanilla. And the scanner base range 50, which is also vanilla. And it turns off God mode. Bat West Off 2, the other ending and the one that I prefer, also takes off the press and hold controls on the boost pack. It uses settings for the scanner that are between the full screen and the flashlight, one that we looked at. It increases the speed slightly over 100, but it does increase the scanner range to 200, which I think is nice. And again, takes off God mode. Of course, I should add that you're free to go into any of these lines of text and change them. If you want to keep that boost pack, for example, with Bat West Off 2, just change the 0 to a 1. Everything is really here in front of you, and you're obviously free to experiment with it any way you want. In my write-up of the mod, I did express a couple cautions. And I think I mentioned it when we were actually in the demonstration phase of this, that this mod puts a lot of strain on your system because you're flying high. There's a lot of materials, objects that have to be processed. And if you go too fast or fly too high, you may find that your game crashes or freezes. It's more likely what could happen. Now, of course, it's desirable when you are using the mod. After you're finished with it, use one of the commands to get out of it, which will set everything back to the way you want it. But if you are stuck in the middle and you have to close the game and start over again, it's a little unpredictable. Some of those features may still be present. I mean, it's nothing fatal. But you still may find that you have higher speed than you're really comfortable with, for example. So the solution is just to run one of the off files, 1 or 2, and maybe do it twice just to be sure. Then you should check and see, am I still in God mode? So that would be just a simple TGM command in your console. Well, that's in Will's Enhanced Survey Tool. I hope you enjoyed as much as I do. But before I wrap up, I want to give credit to Drake0713, who published a mod over a year ago called Mineral Survey Mode, from which I got this idea. Now, he's given license for people to pick up pieces and use it, so I want to acknowledge him here. And try that mod out if you want. I think that the changes that I've made really make it more practical and more adaptable. But who knows? So again, thanks to Drake, and thank all of you for watching. Please subscribe to my videos, give me a thumbs up, and leave any comments about the mod or questions in the comments either on the mod page or on the YouTube page. Bye-bye.